This happened to me just a few weeks ago, and it hasn't left my memory since. I'm 20 years old and just moved into a small apartment complex a few miles from my parents. I've never lived alone before, so this whole situation was pretty new to me. The complex was 3 stories tall and had 6 total apartments. The only one that was available was on the top floor, so that's the one I had to go with. Anyway, I finally got everything in and was able to relax for a little bit before bed. I think the time was around 10 p.m., but I still had to set up my bed and eat dinner. The only thing I really had to eat was ramen, so I started the stove and put a pot of water on top to boil. As I was waiting, I heard the floor in front of my apartment creak softly. I wasn't sure at first if the complex just made noises or if someone was actually at my door. Either way, I figured I should just check in case someone was there. I opened the door slowly. "Hello?" I said softly, as there was an older man standing a few feet from my door with his back facing me. I assumed he lived in the neighboring apartment, as the door was directly in front of mine, which was where he was facing. A few seconds went by, and he turned softly and said,
"Sorry."
then began to walk down the stairs. I closed the door and checked on the pot of water. I started to feel a little bit uneasy, mostly because he didn't go into the neighboring room. There would be no reason for anyone to come up to the top floor unless you lived there. Anyway, I finished making the ramen and tried not to think about it too much. I was just excited to finally have my own place and live alone for once. This was a big accomplishment for me, and I didn't want to be creeped out for my first night. So, I finished making my bed and turned all the lights off. I stayed up on my phone for a little bit before eventually dozing off. I want to say I fell asleep around 11 or 12, but I am not too sure. However, I do remember reading the clock at 1:29 when I woke up after hearing something from the room below mine. It sounded like a soft shuffling of footsteps. I laid there waiting to hear anything else. It took maybe 5 minutes before I heard the creaking floor from outside my room again. I was beginning to panic a little, running through my mind over and over to try and remember if I had locked the door after opening it earlier that night. As I waited in silence, I heard the subtle clicking sound of the doorknob trying to turn. It was locked. I waited for anything further to happen, but after a few seconds, I heard the neighbor's door open and then shut. Relieved, I got out of bed and quickly double-checked to make sure my front door was locked, then I went back to bed. I figured it must have been the old man who had possibly just gotten confused as to which door was his. When morning came, a loud knock came at my front door. I was greeted by 2 police officers. They asked me if I had experienced anything unusual last night or if anything was missing. Apparently, a man had robbed 2 apartments last night, both having forgotten to lock their doors. I told the officers everything, and they thanked me and walked back downstairs. I am not sure if they found the man or not, but nothing happened since. Just thinking about the whole situation makes me really uneasy, and I can't help but wonder what would have happened if I had forgotten to lock the door that night.